Hello and welcome back, dear friends, at Lit eCity YouTube channel where we discuss some important and seriously advanced questions helping you in your preparation for the coming exams. These are some questions you may find in the paper. Yes, dear friends, they are especially curated keeping in mind the standard of paper and especially helping those aspirants who are looking for JRF. Dear friends, in this particular session, we will discuss the Unit 9, some advanced questions on literary theory. We have already seen many questions, but these are some really tough questions. So I hope you will be able to enjoy this quiz. And here is our first question, which is about Gramsci, the famous Italian philosopher. Gramsci elaborated the complex notion of consent by focusing on the conflict between a person's conscious thoughts and the implicit values embedded in his actions. He called this ambiguity. So basically, Gramsci is talking about a division in our consciousness where on the surface level we do particular actions, but there are certain values embedded in our we can say subconscious, which basically creates a kind of division between our action and in our belief. So what is this ambiguity? The options are false consciousness, contradictory consciousness, hegemony consciousness, and dual consciousness. Dear friends, false consciousness is an important concept related with Marxist literary criticism. Contradictory consciousness, another term. Hegemony, we all know, is very much related with the philosophical works of Gramsci and dual consciousness. The correct answer, dear friend, is contradictory consciousness because it is contradiction between what a person does and what a person thinks or believes in. There is a contradiction, especially if that person belongs to proletariat class, to the bourgeois class, then it is more apparent. And if we talk about false consciousness, let me tell you side by side that this concept was first penned by George Lucas, which means people's inability to recognize the capitalist, how the capitalist class exploit them, their inequality, oppression, and exploitation. They are not able to identify it, to detect it, and they think that whatever capitalists are doing, it is doing in their benefit. So these two concepts both are important. False consciousness is actually much older than contradictory consciousness. Our second question is, with which thinker the concepts of planetarity and the figure of the impossible are associated? Both these are some, we can say, concepts related with this particular concept of capitalism and also globalization. Our options are Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, Homi Bhabha, Yakwas Darida, and Ranajit Guha. Now, dear friends, somehow all these are related in studies of colonialism, capitalism, and how these two Western concepts have exploited three fourth of the earth. Now, out of these four, the critic who explained or who explored the concept of planetarity, the figure of the impossible is, yes, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. She has given so many key terms like subaltern, strategic essentialism, planetarity, figure of the impossible, notion of the translation. So basically, planetarity in her book, Death of a Discipline, she used this term to name an ethical alternative to globalization because according to her, globalization is a capitalist device which is used to exploit people. So instead of globalization, she chooses this healthy or this more, we can say, inclusive option of planetarity. If we talk about figure of the impossible, it is about the impossible task of separating translation and cultural notions. She says that it is impossible to have these two different things, which term is applied by the Italian philosopher Giorgio Agamben in his path-breaking book Homo Sacer, for a conception of life in which biological facts of life are given priority over the way a life is lived. Now, this is a very, very important book, Homo Sacer by Giorgio Agamben, and in this particular book, he says that once again, the Western concept of life, vital life as a body, it has affected, and we all what we do is think about our biological way of living, and we never pay emphasis, we never pay attention on the quality of life we live. And this is the term he used for this particular conception. Is it bias, Joe, bare life, or biopolitics? Now, biopolitics is a term, if you have heard about it, it is another key term in, especially in cultural studies. And first, let me tell you the option. The correct option is bare life. Now, you can see bare here means that it is only about the biological fact. And if we talk about bias and Joe, actually he Agamben take this concept from there because it was in accordance with Greek conception of life. According to these Greek philosophers, life can be divided into two main parts: bios, which is about our biological life, and Joe, which is about our quality of life. According to Agamben, in the capitalist society, the whole concern is about bias lies, and there is nobody who can question about Zoe. So our next question is, an ethics of sexual difference is an examination of the myth of Antigone to show how women are deprived of a voice to speak because they upset the male balance of the world. Who is the author of the essay? Now, once again, in feminism, there are different waves, different type of methodologies. It is one of the one of the methods in which earlier texts, myths are re-examined to show that right from the beginning, this world has been, we can say, prejudiced against the rights of women. So the options are Helen Sixzu, Luce Irigaray, Kate Millett, or Julia Kristeva. All these have contributed to the feminist debate by writing some important books, by providing some important concepts. But this particular book, An Ethics of Sexual Difference, is written by Luce Irigaray. The term coined and employed by Michele Foucault for the conduct of a government meant to shape or guide the conduct of people. In other ways, we can say this conduct of government is about the conduct of people. So it is the conduct of the conduct. It is also important. Sometimes it is written in this manner. What I'm saying that it is basically conduct of the conduct, or we can say conduct of the government to control, to influence, to shape the conduct of public. Our options are biopolitics, which is a term given by Michele Foucault, governmentality, strategic governance, or conduct discourse. Discourse never fell in this trap that discourse is theory generally associated with Michele Foucault. The correct answer is governmentality, which is how the government governed the conduct of people. Next question, dear friend, is a quotation which reads, "It is in this sense that the boundary becomes the place from which something begins its presencing in a movement not dissimilar to the ambivalent articulation of the beyond that I have drawn out." Always and ever, differently the bridge escorts the lingering and hastening ways of man to and fro, so that they may get to the other banks. The bridge gathers as a passage that crosses. Now, who is the author of this famous passage, which is let me not spill the beans before the options. French Fanon, Edward Sayyid, Salman Rushdie, or Homi Bhabha. So you can understand it. This must be something. This must something to have to do with post colonialism or the critique of colonialism or how the newly liberated country created their identity. Dear friend, it is none other than Homi Bhabha who wrote these things in the location of culture regarding his famous concept of hybridity, how people, how identities in a post colonial world mix and they create the earlier colonized people. They cross the bridge of language and culture, they meet other culture, and how they create something new, something we can say shaped by their colonial experience. Our next question is once again from Gramsci. According to Gramsci, there is a class of intellectuals whose interests are identical with those of the dominant classes, and this class helped to elaborate and spread the dominant ideology. What is the term used by him for this particular class? Actually, Gramsci was revising the concept given by Marx regarding structure and superstructure, and or we can say base and superstructure, and he elaborated that it is not just economic conditions. Basically, there are people who once belonged to this base and now, by education and by other things, they have become expert and they now support the dominant class. So the options are organic intellectuals, vertical intellectuals, horizontal intellectuals, or traditional intellectuals. Dear friends, the term he is talking about organic intellectuals, who are the specialists, who are the directors. This particular terms, vertical and horizontal, these are also discussed by Gramsci. Vertical means in a particular firm, in a particular establishment, from there they form a kind of hierarchy. For example, one director, then two assistant directors, and something like that. While on horizontal plane, we have spread of these intellectuals on the society. But it is organic intellectuals which basically which are specialists of a field, which always help the dominant class in the dissemination of their ideas. Towards a Feminist Poetics is a path breaking essay by Ellen Showalter, which traces the history of women's literature, women's writing. Now, the question is in which anthology it was first published. Our options are Women Writing and Writing About Women, New French Feminisms, After Strange Texts, The Role of Theory in the Study of Literature, and Feminist Criticism as a Moral Criticism. All these anthologies are very, very popular ones, dear friend, which basically have some very critical and important essays. If we talk about towards a feminist poetics, the correct answer is Women Writing and Writing About Women, which was edited by Mary Jacobus. Illusion and Reality is considered as the first detailed work of Marxist criticism in Britain and presents a historical survey of poetry from a particular economic arrangement in bourgeois society. Who is the author? Now, this particular work, it talks about how the poetry of earlier poetry, neoclassical poetry, even after that romantic poetry, it was affected, it was shaped by the particular economic system of that time. So it's basically a Marxist rewriting of the poetic history of English England English literature. So the options are Christopher Caldwell, Raymond Williams, Terry Eagleton, or W.H. Auden. Dear friends, the right answer is Christopher Caldwell, a very well known, a very important British Marxist critic whose contribution, Illusion and Reality, is really significant. The ideology of modernism is a scathing critique of modernist literature for its overemphasis on style and technique and the loss of Aristotelian view of man as a social animal. Who authored this essay? So in this essay, the writer, the critic, the essays talk about how the novel has basically become a total, especially in the first half of 20th century, in the hands of writers like Virginia Woolf and James Joyce, only a thing of experiment in style. And man as a social animal has basically pushed into the background. The options are Bertolt Brecht, Frederick Engels, George Lucas, or Jean-Paul Sartre. And the correct answer, dear friend, is George Lucas, who in his study on the novels and in his essay, The Ideology of Modernism, has severely criticized the heavy experimental style of modernist novelists. In his book, The Long Revolution, Raymond Williams talk about three revolutions in European society. Which among the following is not one among them? So the options are the democratic revolution, the cultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and the class revolution. Raymond Williams, the famous name, who once again has given so many concepts, talked about so many things, and he talks about three revolution. Out of this, the one which is not the part of his study is the class revolution. Yes, dear friends, he talks about the democratic revolution, the cultural revolution, the industrial revolution, but not about the class revolution. Okay, dear friends, that was all in this brief but engaging session of MCQs on advanced literary theory. Very soon we will come with another series of such questions on literary theory. Keep watching, keep supporting, keep preparing. Do everything what is in your capability to crack NET and JRF. Thank you, friends.